The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Alec Karakatsanis, founder of the Civil Rights Corps and author of Alec's Copaganda newsletter on SubStack. Also on the program today, some Republican leadership at the beginning of edging away from Donald Trump as Harris gains ground with widening constituencies. Meanwhile, more bad news for Donald Trump and the Republicans. Inflation down again, teeing up a federal rate cut. Ukraine hits Russian air bases with inside of Russia as its surprise offensive rolls on. Yesterday was primary day. Ilhan Omar wins handily this time around in her Minnesota primary. U.S. to give Israel $20 billion with a B more for offensive weapons for the defense of Israel. This, as Israeli media confirms that the Israeli army is using Palestinian civilians as human shields against IEDs or anything else for that matter. Harris rolls out the beginning of her economic agenda in North Carolina, and Walz at the AFSCME convention with his solo debut. Biden administration asked the Supreme Court to lift the block on its student debt relief plan. The DOJ is contemplating a full breakup plan for Google in the wake of a judge deciding it's an illegal monopoly. J.K. Rowling, Elon Musk, both named in a criminal complaint filed in France, charging cyber harassment of the Algerian boxer who won the women's boxing title. New Starbucks CEO may bring a reversal on union neutrality, say. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Emma Vigeland out today. She'll be back tomorrow. So I just wanted to give you this update from Pandemic Anxiety. A Rumble report last week, we had a peak of 98 simultaneous viewers.
Damn.
Yep. So things are really happening around these parts. Thanks for joining us. Kowalski from Nebraska says, it's pretty easy to start on time. You just have to show up early and boom, you're there when the fun begins at noon. Any time after that means a lack of punctuality. This is why the left will ultimately fail the test. My mood is now bleak and my day is ruined. Poggers. All right. I don't want to get in the habit of reading these IMs. We're going to end up getting like 5,000 of these things before we even get to the fun half.
It's a Kowalski, adjust your expectations, buddy.
Exactly. Sun doesn't rise the same time every day, does it? Why don't you go howl at the sun, buddy?
Check the Farmer's Almanac.
Lot to get to. We've got some clips of some polling that's happening. In fact, there was also an AP poll out today. I listened to the AP News at the top and the bottom of the hour, and it was fascinating. It was a lot of specific issues, and also sort of like personality traits between the two candidates. And on every single one, leadership, cares about us, whatever it was, Harris had a lead about 5 or 6 points on Trump, which, in this day and age is a significant lead. And even when it came to questions to the economy, it was more or less tied. And, I should say specifically, the sense of who will win. A lot of political scientists believe that this is one of the more predictive polling out there, rather than who they believe, who they support, who they think will win. And it has reversed, or I should say, Harris is now tied with Trump on that, whereas I think Biden was down by about 5 or 6 points in that when he was still in the race. So it's pretty fascinating. Also reports that Biden is still upset at Pelosi and Obama and Schumer. He should be, but in my mind, for the wrong reasons, I think he has. Pretty hard to be sitting where Joe Biden is and not feel like anyone who was saying that Harris is going to do better has been vindicated. Simultaneously, however, I guess Nancy Pelosi went on Ezra Klein's podcast and inadvertently, perhaps, revealed that she definitely did have a plan to try and open up the nomination to edge Harris out. And that Biden made his announcement surprised Pelosi and Schumer et al. And Obama, presumably, when he made his announcement. They didn't think he was going to do it on that Sunday. And by the time that they had sort of regrouped, he had already endorsed Harris, which fundamentally altered the nature of the race. I mean, it's clear what happened is he decided, and then he's like, okay, I'm doing this on my terms now. And you'll recall AOC had that Instagram stream. I think it was just a couple of days before Biden dropped out.
Not like the night or 2 nights before.
I feel like it was on maybe Thursday night.
Okay.
Prior to that, this is just off the top of my memory. And
it was on the way back from the studio.
were we covering like the convention or the convention? There was no debate.
Convention,
right.
Yeah.
And Grandpa Alec over here, and she had outlined how this was a problem, putting aside the question of what was, whether anybody else was going to be a better candidate. And so, I wonder if we'll ever get a TikTok as to what was happening in that sort of like progressive entity. If there was any type of like, and I'm not talking necessarily AOC, but maybe like Bernie, it's unclear.
What they were seeing.
Oh, they definitely were seeing what was going on, and that was causing some alarm. Both from a, I think both from like a political perspective, I think it would have been a disaster to have had an open, mini primary. I don't even know what that means. But this whole notion of like these tech bros coming in and going like, well, the way we'll do it is, we'll roll out our new technology.
We got an app.
Yeah, exactly. Would have been ridiculous. All right. Meanwhile, first decision that Kamala Harris made was who she was going to tap to be her vice president. He spoke first time solo appearance. Is that right? And he decided to do it at the AFSCME conference in Los Angeles. This is the Association of Federal, State, City, Municipal Employees. That's pretty good. I can't believe I nailed that. And here he is talking about his record as a governor in Minnesota. Remember, he was a teacher for, a dozen years, obviously in a teachers union. So union member.
That's why, as governor, I signed one of the biggest packages of pro-worker policies in history into law. In Minnesota, we made it easier for workers to form unions. We strengthened workers' protections. And yes, we banned those damn captive audience meetings for good in Minnesota. Last time I said that at a union meeting, they sued me over it. It was the best thing to get sued over I ever said. We're going to continue to ban those meetings. But we did more than that for families and ask me workers that are there every single day. We did.
There you go. And that I like that kind of talk. And I like the fact that they're out there, you know.
Wanting to fight.
Huh?
Wanting to fight.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't really have any insight into what the dynamic is between the presidential nominee and the vice presidential nominee. But I can tell you that if the presidential nominee had a problem with it, you wouldn't hear him say that anymore. And so, you know, him going out there leading with this the first time he goes out solo really gives you a good indication of at least how they're going to run. And I will add, we'll have some reports on recent polling too that shows Donald Trump is losing support to Kamala Harris. I don't mean losing, but shedding support to Kamala Harris in some of the least expected places. But we'll get to that later in the program. First, a word from our sponsor, and then we will be talking to Alec Karakatsanis, founder of the Civil Rights Corps and author of Alec's Copaganda newsletter on Substack, about basically a book or a long-form article that is fascinating around body cameras. But first, this word on Shopify. People know that when I started this program, people were asking me, get merch. Not to buy merch, but I mean to sell merch. And it was the last thing I wanted to do. The last thing I wanted to do was to have to manage a storefront and deal with all the hassle associated with it. I didn't think we'd be able to put, stuff up there quickly. I just didn't think I'd be able to manage any of it. And Shopify made it so much easier. Now, we just put up this Vergonia t-shirt, right? The shame from the flag. The hardest part of this process was voting on which the logo was going to be. But once we did that, getting it up there, getting it on the site quickly was super easy. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business, from the launch your online shop stage to the first real life store stage, all the way to we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify is there to help you grow. It doesn't matter whether you're selling scented soap, offering outdoor outfits, or, Vergonia t-shirts. Shopify helps you sell everywhere. Doesn't matter if you're selling them on your website or if you're doing a live show on election night in 2024 and you sell there, you can integrate those point of sale sales with your e-commerce platform. Shopify has got you covered. Shopify helps turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds and Rothy's. Millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way, because businesses that grow with Shopify. Honestly, super easy to manage. Will scale with us in the event that, I don't know, our merch ever, gets crazy out of hand. But very helpful when we've done live shows in the past. We get to maintain all our inventory and we get a sense because the two things integrate. Plus, all this stuff works on every social media platform. You can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/majority. all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/majority right now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/majority. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Alec Karakatsanis, founder of the Civil Rights Corps and author of Alec's Copaganda newsletter on SubStack. Right back after this. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland is out today. Want to welcome to the program Alec Karakatsanis. He is the founder of the Civil Rights Corps and author of Alec's Copaganda newsletter on Substack, and specifically wrote, I guess it was a little less than a month ago, a full-length article or a small book. I'm not sure which to characterize it. Everything I read is digital these days anyways, but entitled The Body Camera, The Language of Our Dreams. And this is from the Yale Journal of Law and Liberation. Is that right?
That's right.
Alec, thanks for coming on to talk about this. I found the piece fascinating, both because on two different levels. One, because I was one of those people who always had assumed that the value and the impetus, the reason for body cams was for police accountability, and I was very surprised to see how it wasn't. But also, I feel like you are examining a paradigm that I think happens a lot more within the context. I mean, certainly within the context of policing, but I would also imagine in the context of a lot of policy decisions in which we are led to believe that it's for one purpose when in fact it's for another. All right. So with that said, let's just start with the notion that, I mean, what was the impetus? I mean, you've looked at 10 years worth of sort of research or articles on this. It starts with the killing of Michael Brown in 2014, but just walk us through how you decided to look into this.
I became really interested in how well-meaning people in our society who want to solve serious problems like police violence, but like a wide range of problems, how they are repeatedly and in effect constantly being bombarded with propaganda that gets them to support so-called solutions to those problems that actually make the problems worse. And you're right, this happens over a wide domain of subject matter areas. And I think the body camera is the perfect example to examine this through, because it's probably the most significant achievement of Copaganda in modern times. So the body camera was originally manufactured and sold and marketed to police and prosecutors and other sort of punishment bureaucrats as sort of a revolutionary new tool that would help them. And they got so excited about the body cameras and I'm talking about well before the killing of Michael Brown, police departments were so excited about body cameras, but they had a big problem. They couldn't get the billions of dollars in funding it was going to take to outfit every cop in the country with a mobile surveillance camera that the cops themselves controlled.
All right, let me just stop you here because now we have two different constituencies here who are interested in this. At that point, it's not, I don't know, you call it a reform even, a feature or one is the people who are selling it. And then the other is the cops. So let's start with the people who are selling it. Like the idea of everybody having one camera, like, will you explain where all the profit lies in this? Because there's massive profit that I don't think that people appreciate because you just think, oh, it's one little GoPro, but it's not.
Right. So actually cameras are not that expensive, a few $100s. What's really expensive are the long-term perpetual contracts that accompany the cameras for software, algorithmic artificial intelligence, facial and voice recognition, and then the big one, sort of big database cloud storage, but also training. So we're talking about a bonanza of trainers and consultants and people who then come in every year and train the new officers and sort of train the people that are manning the databases, train the people in the artificial intelligence software, train the prosecutors, right? So we're talking about like an industry that is worth tens of billions of dollars all told. And it's not just Axon, which is the company that used to be called Taser that manufactures, is the leading manufacturer of the camera, but Axon has expanded itself into a leading platform for police departments to host a lot of their data and storage on the cloud. But then it goes way bigger than Axon, whose value skyrocketed by billions of dollars after the Democrats became interested in body cameras as police reform. So I'll bracket that for a minute. But it's big companies like Microsoft and Amazon. These are companies that have gigantic predictive policing, cloud storage, big data contracts, not just with police, but federal agencies, the military, immigration and border patrol. All of these entities see this as being a long-term plan at what they call total information awareness, which is collecting as much data as possible about everything that we are doing, which means video cameras everywhere. And so the long-term plan, obviously, is to connect not just the body cameras, but all of the Amazon Ring cameras, right? And then to have artificial intelligence programs evaluating all of this at all times. And that's where a lot of the profit lies. It's years and decades after Michael Brown, where every police department in the country, there's over 18,000 of these police departments, are going to be getting contracts with these companies to hire IT consultants and experts and trainers. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss.
And it's like a subscription, model where it's like, okay, we make the one sale, in 2022, and we can now tell you what we're going to be making over the course of the next 10, 15 years with, a 10% bump because we roll out this other feature, we roll out this other thing, whatever it is. Maybe it's more than 10, 15%. So this is has a tremendous amount of value to these companies and to their shareholders.
And you have to understand that, this is a global thing, right? This is being sold and marketed to police in authoritarian dictatorships all over the world, right? And in those countries, it's not marketed as a reform for accountability and transparency. It's marketed as here's how we're going to control our population. And you have to understand as well that the police in the United States wanted body cameras prior to Michael Brown because it enabled them to do 3 or 4 really important things, right? They could have an outward-looking camera that does not capture the cop, that they decide when to turn on, when to turn off, when to release it to the public, how to edit it, right? It enables them to control the virality of certain narratives. So you see the police pushing body cameras out into the public immediately when, let's say, they want to foment national outrage about a crime by an undocumented immigrant. But you see them withholding for years body camera footage that shows maybe some aspect of the police killing someone. Although I have to say, most of the most prominent videos that have outraged the country about police killings of unarmed Black people have not been through body cameras because they are cameras from a different perspective that is looking at the police officer, that's capturing what the officer is actually doing. And that's why I titled the piece, The Language of Our Dreams. It comes from a James Baldwin quote about how the person who, like the film director, the person who controls the camera actually controls what we see. And then the most important things that the police wanted them for was surveillance. The body cameras combined with artificial intelligence software now enable police to go to any protest and just scan the crowd. And they can document all of the faces. They can see who knows who, who's next to who is a leader, right? Things like that. They go to any neighborhood they want in the country. They record video of who's hanging out on the street corner, who's friends with who, right? This is incredibly powerful. And then prosecutors were a real driving force of this, because everybody understands that the criminal punishment system in the US is trying to prosecute and process more low-level cases than any legal system has ever tried to do in the history of the modern world. And the only way to do that is to coerce very quick guilty pleas. You want as many low-level prosecutions, as many pleas as quickly as possible, because then those people get fined and they get paid fines and fees that go into the system that the prosecutors and the police and the judges use. So prosecutors realize that they're rarely going to use these body cameras against the police. They rarely prosecute police. But what they really wanted was a quick source of video evidence against the poorest people in our society for the lowest level stuff, like marijuana possession, drug possession, trespassing, etc. It enables them, as soon as someone's arrested, to approach them and say, hey, we've got video evidence of you being guilty, so you better plead guilty right away, save us all this time. So it actually enables prosecutors and police to prosecute more people. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand, because it's never talked about in the narrative of why prosecutors and police want body cameras.
And in terms of the prosecutors, I just want to make this clear for people. There's about, from your piece, it was either 4 or 5% of crimes that cops deal with and prosecutors deal with that are considered violent. So we're talking about low-level violations that are both from a statistical standpoint, but also I think from like an obvious standpoint, focused on low-income people, generally communities of color. These are sort of like, even if it's stuff like jump at a turnstile type of things, where it's not just about efficiency of the system, it's allowing the system to expand what it's going to criminalize in our society.
And here's the key propaganda point. If after the murder of Michael Brown, multi-billion-dollar corporations and prosecutors and police have come out and said, we want body cameras to enable us to more quickly prosecute poor people for low-level crimes, it would have had a different constituency. The police would have supported it, but a lot of the liberals wouldn't have, right? And so the key was rebranding it. And they were very smart after the killing of Michael Brown. They rebranded it totally. They erased the history. And now 10 years of articles, nobody mentions the actual history of why body cameras were marketed and produced and exciting to police. They all talk about them as a tool of accountability and transparency. They realized that if they marketed it to liberals, Democrats, etc., they could now suddenly get thousands of cities and counties across the country, federal grants, state level grants, to treat this thing that they always wanted but could never afford as a tool of accountability at a moment in time when the public was clamoring for accountability. That's what's most harmful and most deceptive and most propagandistic about this. It's by painting something as a liberal reform that's actually profitable authoritarian policy, you get a whole segment of society who are well-meaning to support something that actually makes the problems that they care about worse. And like you said, only, according to the police themselves, only about 4% of all their time is spent on violent crime. According to the FBI, only 5% of all arrests are for what the FBI categorizes as violent crime. So the vast bulk of what police are doing with the body cameras is a sort of relentless low-level monitoring and punishment of very poor people for relatively minor crimes.
Okay, so in terms of the cops, it allows for a lot more surveillance of people just more broadly. Are these cameras, do they automatically upload, or do they do they bring these cameras back to the precinct every night and upload all the data, or how does it work?
It really depends, and that's actually in flux. And there's lots of fighting in a lot of these jurisdictions about what policies and what software is going to be used in these cameras. So, for example, sometimes now the cameras, when the cop turns them on, they actually record the 30 seconds prior to the cop turning it on. That was an innovation that some people said, well, we have to do this because otherwise, the cop will just turn it on after they've done the bad thing. But now cops, of course, know that when they press the button, it's capturing the 30 seconds before they do that, right?
So they wait another 30 seconds.
Yeah. So there's this game of cat and mouse, and a lot of places have no penalties for officers for not turning the body cameras on. A lot of places, have no consequences for body cameras malfunctioning, right? So the police have been able through their control, and another thing is that police are trained when they're in this camera, which is affixed to their chest, so it's already creating a very chaotic. It's not like you're holding it still.
Right.
It's creating this chaotic picture, which makes it seem like the situation is far more intense than it is a lot of times. But they're trained from behind the camera to say things like, "Stop resisting! Stop resisting! Stop resisting!"
You can notice that when you see a lot of you just see resisting the guys, you pummeling the guy. Well, what are you talking about? But you can hear that is like they're
record for the police that they can later say, well, the person was resisting. I was saying it right in the moment. I was telling them not to resist. And so there's actually really good research, and I should have said this up front. There's research that the federal government, federal prosecutors themselves have endorsed. And this is the sort of very well accepted conclusion. Body cameras do not reduce police violence. Think about that. The thing that has been pitched for 10 years as one of the primary solutions to police violence, empirically, according to the studies, does not reduce police violence. Okay. Number two, it does not make police more accountable and transparent. So you have to ask yourself, how is this still part of the Democratic Party's main response every time there's a police killing, right? Who gains by focusing on that rather than asking questions like, why are there so many armed police? Why are they in this neighborhood and not in that neighborhood? Really serious questions.
I want to get to that part because that's part of the sort of the more meta thing of how these reforms and also the question of federal intervention, how they sort of, let the air out of the tire a little bit and rechannel desire for any type of reform, genuine change, I should say, in the context of the way that we police and how much we police. But let me just one more point, because someone just raised this on the IM, and I just want to be more explicit about this because from the police standpoint, I think people understand the incentive structure that police want more and more tools to exert control. They want more militarized vehicles. They want more, militarized outfits. They want more power. And these cameras provide that, at least in terms of what the data and the research that you've done. From the prosecutor's standpoint, just explain their incentive structure, because I don't think people understand that, they've got their big board. They want a certain number of numbers. They want a certain amount of revenue coming in. It's not just, and they probably have similar incentive structure more often than not as the cops.
People who don't work in the legal system often miss this fact, but the single most important fact you need to understand about mass incarceration is that it would be impossible to prosecute all of the people that the police arrest if everybody exercised their constitutional right to an adequate lawyer, investigation of their case, and a jury trial. So the system knows that it will totally collapse unless over 95% of people plead guilty. It also knows that the system will totally collapse if even 5 or 10% more people demanded a competent lawyer who investigated their case, who filed motions, right? So prosecutors and judges are obsessed with how busy and crowded their dockets are. It's not just about all the money they earn from the low-level churn. That's important. Like, these offices are funded in part by the money they earn from these prosecutions, but it would be total chaos if, like, no society, particularly because we have these constitutional rights, which are actually quite robust, like when a rich person is prosecuted, it's actually quite hard to convict them because you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury, and that's a very high standard, and you get to fight for months or years about the evidence of the prosecutors, right? Like, the whole system of prosecuting poor people is predicated on them not fighting. And so prosecutors really wanted the cameras because lots of people are committing crimes all the time, Body cameras are not in corporate boardrooms, right? They're not like capturing all the white collar crime. They're not capturing all the companies that are violating pollution law, right? There's 100,000 violations of the Clean Water Act every year, causing huge amounts of death. There's $50 billion in wage theft, right? So they know that people are committing crimes. The problem is, how do you prove those crimes really quickly? So if you've got someone who's possessing a small amount of drugs, they might fight their case if there was no video. Maybe they file a motion saying I was illegally searched, or maybe they say, actually, you found those drugs next to me, but they actually belonged to my friend. Well, now what the prosecutors and cops want is like a video they can say to the person, we've got you on video doing this thing, and that helps them move the cases along really quickly.
All right, let's talk about, because we don't have too much more time left. I know you got a hard out here. But what made it so easy for them to introduce this idea that, they want this equipment, they want this power, they're running up against the wall because they can't get the funding for it, and then all of a sudden the opening happens. I mean, how does that happen? It almost feels like, you can see the effectiveness, let's say, of the Walz calling Republicans weird. I don't know if there was anybody in a boardroom saying, we're going to call them weird. You're going to roll this out, on Sunday. It's just that they did it. It stuck. And is that the way that this sort of became the idea that, like, oh, this is a reform and we can implement it? And I mean, it sounds like it would be a reform until you get the data, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows the full story of how planned all of this is. And certainly I don't think that all of the dozens of journalists who I evaluate and cite in the piece who erased this whole story, I don't think everyone's in on some overt conspiracy or something like that. I think that's why it's so important to talk about this. These things happen quite subtly. And it's not just a criminal system. Another example I use in the book is like the international development context. The way that certain kinds of aid and loans are discussed to the global south, makes it seem like, we are ameliorating, these issues of poverty or whatever, but we're not talking about the structural conditions that are creating the poverty in the first place in other countries, right? And the role of the United States, for example, the role of large corporations. All of these things are, and I think they're most effective. And this is a really key point that the scholar James Ferguson makes in his book Anti-Politics Machine, and that I make in my book Usual Cruelty, is these things are most effective when the reform that you're offering arguably does some incremental good in some situation, right? So like when, given a situation where the police are killing Black people, and keep in mind, after the obsession with body cameras, police have killed more Black people. So every year since George Floyd was murdered, police have killed more people than the year before, despite extraordinary spending on body cameras, right? But in each instance of police killing, there's a natural desire that we have to know what happened, We want to know, like, was this an incident where, the criminal law was violated by the police officer? So there's this natural desire, and what people lose sight of is a deeper and better question is, how do we reduce police killing? How do we remove the police from that interaction? How do we reduce the number of armed government bureaucrats who are policing and controlling the lives of poor people with no public safety benefit, as opposed to given that the police are killing more and more people every year, how do we punish, 1% of the cops? Like, it's a shift away from prevention and understanding how to overall reduce police violence, and the natural impulse to want to punish a police officer who does something bad in an individual instance. And unfortunately, the public is enormously, even the well-meaning public, is enormously distractible. That you can get them to focus on things that seem like they're a good faith effort to like find out more, and get them to not talk at all about the elephant in the room, which is, why are police in the United States killing more people than they ever have, and then more people than any other country in the world?
So it's certainly, I mean, the analogy, I guess, would be like an ace bandage to treat cancer. You can see the ace bandage, and maybe there's at least a superficial sort of a benefit associated, but it also provides an opportunity for people to really address the real fundamental underlying problem that is policing. The piece is The Body Camera, The Language of Our Dreams. We will link to that. Alec Karakatsanis, thank you so much for your time. We will also link to your Copaganda newsletter on Substack. Thanks again for joining us, and I really appreciate it. It's really fascinating, both as directly it pertains to this issue and more largely in terms of like general carceral reform and policing, but also just more broadly as policy prescriptions. I think there's probably analogies in housing and in terms of the way we deal with the homeless as well in this country. So really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, we got to take, we got a little bit of time. No, we could. All right, let's just I want to do a little bit. We'll stay. We're not going to go the fun half yet. I don't know why I'm allergic to doing that. I mean, this show was supposed to be 45 minutes long when we launched this 14 years ago.
I think we should just do it.
Just go to the fun half?
Fun half.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't even
Sam's hands are shaking.
Yeah.
Didn't we want to do the taxes on tips story?
Yeah, but we'll do that in the fun
think?
half. All right. Yeah. Screw it. I'm going to live. It's like, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to really let my hair down. End the show after 45 minutes just to see the one time in the like enormous list of podcasts and shows that we have. It's like under an hour. Folks. Oh, God.
Can't do it.
I can do it. It's your support that makes the show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, but you get the fun half. And, you get much more than 45 minutes of show. You can support this show by going to jointhemajority.report.com. And also, check out the AM Quickie. AM Quickie every day, 9 a.m., 5 days a week, I should say. 9 a.m., shows up in your email box. Actually, it's 3 days a week for free, but you can get it for 5 if you subscribe to it or do the paid subscription. But 3 days a week at the very least, you get free sort of stories that you will miss, stories that we don't have time to fully cover here. Much of our headlines come from that, but there's more. So check it out, amquickie.com. And also, don't forget justcoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee, hot chocolate. They're a great outfit. They're going to be, we're going to have some more ads from them next week, talking a little bit more about what they do. But they're a co-op out of Madison, Wisconsin. They sell the new Just Coffee Majority Report blend logo has dropped, ladies and gentlemen, 20th anniversary. Check it out. It's a great coffee, but they have a bunch of other really great coffees as well. Treat their farmers. I just can't imagine there's any outfit that treats them better than Just Coffee, to be honest with you. So check it out. Bradley, what's happening on ESPN?
Yeah, we were back Monday to wrap up the Olympics, both the men's and women's basketball finals, as well as some of the obviously very pertinent Amani Khalif drama, which is obviously now
even more
developed,
intense.
since the lawsuit filed on her behalf. And we also did some training camp recap and talked about some of the rookie quarterbacks and how they've been faring. So you tune in next week at 4 p.m. YouTube.com/ESPN show, and you can also check out our prior streams and clips if you want to check those out as well.
Shucky Darn says, love the AM Quickie. I dropped all my social media and it helps me keep up on everything. Yeah, it's a great way to do it. That's actually a very good point.
Get rid of X. Left Reckoning last night did a short show, talked about Elon Musk, Joe Rogan's endorsement of RFK, and then saying, I was just talking about them as people. And which man I like the most. It wasn't an endorsement. Please don't take it that way. So yeah, profile encouraged there from Joe Rogan. Patreon.com/leftreckoning.
Folks, see you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boys back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boys back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman!
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder, what a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Denner.
Yeah, or a couple of them, just put them in rotation.
DJ Denner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. See white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males,
psych, fuck them.
Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. All lives matter.
Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
and the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African, and the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on, fuck 'em. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy.
I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland off today. We'll read some IMs and then get into it. I already Saw Kowalski's passive aggressive. I am earlier.
I mean, he's looking at miles and miles of corn right now. Probably.
Yeah, I know that's got to be tough. Sam's aunt, chew with your mouth closed, Samuel. Okay. Dearborn, albino. Hey, I'm our crew. When talking about DDoS attack, instead of pronouncing it DDoS, pronounce it DDoS. Rhymes with TTOS, like all the IT programmers in the know. All right? We will do that.
We're going to convince them that we know about technology.
Pandemic anxiety rumble report. Already did that. Just ordered my Vergonia shirt, but also want to order a shirt from the runner-up. Can't find a link to her site. Can you remind it?
It's in our show description. It's just right below.
Oh, it's in the show description. We should put it in the up on the site there too.
Okay, sure. But yeah, it's just right below the Vergonia link in the show notes.
DC Socialist watching live on TikTok for the first time. Nice. Ginger Squatch. I'm celebrating y'all's weirdness. Don't worry. I don't know what that means.